person anything. I'm really just a I'm really just a person who, when I found out about BSL, was horrified and thought, well, I'm not a good person if I do nothing about this. So, and I'm really nervous about public speaking, so please bear with me and yell out if I'm boring you and I'll stop. What I want to say today is that while the government may claim that BSL is to protect us and prevent harm by dangerous dogs, it has absolutely nothing to do with that. In fact, under the current legislation, that is expressly irrelevant. The nature of the dog is expressly irrelevant in the VCAT cases. The only deciding factor is their physical shape. A lot of people don't realise that breed-specific legislation has actually been around in Victoria for a long time, since December 2001, would you believe? However, these regulations only came into full effect, the legislation was passed, or the regulations, they only came into full effect in 2003 after completing the procedural requirements and the required regulatory impact statement. If I jump ahead for a second, don't you think that's kind of a time frame to process the law properly took that long, yet how quickly did the current BSL law come in? Over the time, those BSL regulations that started in 2000, that were effective in 2003, were evolved. Initially, they included very little. The requirements were only for the dog to have a secure enclosure, perhaps a sign on the house and microchipping. That's it. Since that time, that last 11 years, it has evolved and evolved. It started to include things like compulsory desexing. And the other difference with that space of time is that until the 1st of September, declarations of dogs were reviewed by a panel of 3 experts from a pool who were appointed by the Minister at the time. The panel consisted of one person from the American Pit Bull Terrier Club, one person from the Victorian Canine Association, now called Dogs Victoria, and one person from an animal welfare organisation. That would be the RSPCA or the Lost Dogs Home. At least they would have a much better chance of assessing the accuracy of a dog's assessment than a council officer who, as David pointed out, has either no or negligible training. Then on September the 1st, 2010, when that stopped being the process, there was an amnesty for all dogs of any breed to be registered. That's when it began. It was meant to be for 2 years. However, the current standard that we all know and hate came into effect on the 30th of September 2011. Our government used the horrific incident leading to the death of Ian Scholl in August 2011, to cut short the amnesty and capitalise on fear-based decisions to speed their intent to legally eradicate dogs they consider to be shaped wrong, regardless of their actual breed, temperament or training. And I know the previous speakers have kept their emotions in check and managed this professionally, and see, I'm going to prove to you I don't wear this title well. As far as I'm concerned, that's genocide based on the same principles that Adolf Hitler used, and it's now Victorian law. To achieve this, extraordinary powers were given to council officers to breach the moral rights of Victorian citizens. As Stonington City Council quite proudly told me, it is within their legal power to break into a citizen's home and steal their dog, who had been sleeping peacefully on the couch while his humans weren't home. They frightened him literally poopless, I was going to say another word there, you know what I mean, in the process, as evidenced by the mess left behind, and put him on death row. This was the first time I became aware of BSL, and it was on Facebook, and I thought, that's got to be crap, someone's exaggerating here, there's no way that sort of thing would happen in Victoria. That's why I rang Stonington Council to ask about them, and they proudly informed me that it was wholly legal. When I asked them about, surely they must need a warrant to do that, the answer I got was, yes, we need a warrant. And what did they require to get a warrant? They needed a suspicion, and only a suspicion that a dog that looked like that lived there. That's it. So effectively it's nothing. They need nothing. They can just break into someone's home and steal their pet. Literally. This is the case that opened my eyes to the situation and made me go, well, I have to do something. I have to learn, I have to understand this better. Thankfully, Bree had posted Lila's information on Facebook, and hers was the next case that I found. She also posted one of her VCAT hearing dates, and that prompted me to go and attend to see for myself what was really going on. I've been very lucky to meet Bree and her family, and I mean all of them, two-legged and four-legged. And it also led me to meeting Bonnie and Linda. Bonnie and Linda have actually been fighting BSL from the beginning. They know about all of it, and I'm lucky to have been able to join the cause against it with them. Their dedication and commitment are awesome. Let me tell you how they work. When this legislation came in, anyone who wanted to appeal the declaration of their dog had to go to VCAT. Well, they still do. These ladies every night check out the law list and see if there is a case coming up that is a person's name versus a city council under the general list. If that happens, it is a dog case most likely, and it could be either a restricted breed or a dangerous dog. They do their best to contact the owner to find out which and offer their help if it's a restricted breed case. If they can't contact the owner, they rock up to VCAT on the day and make sure they can offer their help there. They've done this tirelessly every day. They do all of this at their own personal expense, and they do it for all of us and to make things right in our state, starting by protecting our frontline victims. I've been trying to do the stats last night. They've been to 29 VCAT, or been involved, I should say, in 29 VCAT hearings. 9 of those have been won, 10 of those were lost, 6 of those are now in the Supreme Court. There's another one in the Supreme Court over a jurisdiction issue, and we're not getting into the legal rubbish here. 5 we're still awaiting results on right now, so keep your fingers crossed for those 5 little souls. And 4 of them were thrown out and the dogs were killed because their owners were a no-show for their VCAT hearing day. I think that's the saddest thing I've ever heard. How could they let their little souls die? They aren't good guardians, to use Brad's word. For the record, they were fined heftily for that, and my sense of justice says good, they deserve it. I'd also like to point out, and David was much nicer and didn't name names, but about half of these cases are from Hume City Council. So... Yes, but the point is, as David said, it is really a large majority of the cases that are going through that council. They are actively looking for, they peek over people's fences to see if a dog might fit the description. Right? That's how some of these start. So that council really needs to be held accountable by their ratepayers. Anyway, without Bonnie and Linda, I would say, oh, by the way, councils tell people that the VCAT process is really informal and you won't need any legal help. They tell people they can speak for themselves. I have to tell you, it is so not an informal process. It is a very legal process, and you need to have the right evidence and the right witnesses. And without Bonnie and Linda doing what they did, a whole lot more of those cases would have been lost. And that happens to be where I've now come to be doing what it is I do now. I turned up to watch Bonnie support one of the owners on one day. That was for a dog called Nala, owned by a lady called Donna. Nala's the sweet pea, I believe, that David was referring to earlier, the dog that he would have wanted to bring home. As we met in the morning, Bonnie is a very expressive person and finds it difficult to hide her feelings. So when I met with her in the morning, she asked me if I could sit by Donna and support her through doing this, because she wouldn't be able to hide her feelings towards this particular council. So I agreed that I could sit beside Donna and help her. Of course, I have no idea how I would manage if it were my dog that was seized and I had to argue for them. I don't know how I would function at all, let alone trying to represent myself in a VCAT case. So what happened to poor Donna is that the minute the member addressed her and expected her to answer a question, she froze. I think she did good just being there without crying, because I think that's what I would have been doing. So I ended up stepping up and speaking on behalf of Donna. And thank God we got Nala home, because if we didn't, if I had have felt responsible for losing a case and a dog being sentenced to death, I don't think I would have ever done it again. Since then, I've spoken on behalf of a number of owners and found myself in some morally disgusting circumstances. And if you guys haven't been to VCAT, even if you're against BSL, you have no idea just how bad it is. I've found myself, first of all, procedures are all different, so they're not run the same. You can't get a gist of how they're going to operate, because every member runs it differently as they see fit. I've found myself arguing over the length of a dog's tail or the shape of its eyes to decide whether it lives or dies. I've had a lengthy discussion, are you ready for this, about whether the dog's ear flops halfway up or a third of the way up. That's how we're going to decide on its life. All of these dogs, really friendly, by the way. They're not a threat to society. I've dealt with council officers who don't even understand dog anatomy and the terminology used in the standard. I've dealt with situations where the opposing side try to twist how to apply the standard. The standard isn't a perfect document. There are pictures in it that don't actually match the words, and one section picture does not relate to another section. However, the opposition will try to say, well, look at that dog, your dog looks like that dog. That's as an example of body. It's got the same feet. It's irrelevant, and those feet don't fit the standard either. So it's an impossible situation that leads to innocents dying. I've been in situations where the members hearing the case have a very obvious bias. I know I'm not probably supposed to say that out loud, but it's true, so I'm saying it. A 4-hour argument about genetics, which, by the way, is actually irrelevant in a VCAT case, but the opposing side and the member didn't seem to realise that at the time. This resulted in 2 trips to Cobram to complete a case which should have been done in one sitting. It's horrible. I just hope each time I do this, I don't bring down anyone's case.